Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you. All right, great to be here. Hope everybody can hear me. And welcome to my webinar. I hope you've been having a great Thursday. Wednesday. Why I'm thinking it's Thursday. But thanks for turning up, joining us here and now, doing a little bit of live market analysis in Forex today. Some of you, this might be the first time you've been on a webinar with me. My name is Sam Evans. I'm the CEO and co-founder of StockAbility. And just kind of want to give you a little bit of a flavor of our very simple approach to price action and what we do here with some live market Forex analysis. Going to be mainly looking at the majors here, and thought it might be fun to just kind of give my outlook on a little bit of crypto as well, on Bitcoin, and some alternative investments in that which may be of use to everybody. Before we can begin, can I make sure everybody can hear me firstly as well, because I'm having difficulty seeing who's in the room here right now. So could you just put in the chat box there that you can hear me okay and that you can see my screen? That would be useful. That would be great. I know admin can see me, but just attendees right now. Great, thanks, Mikhail. That really helps. So I want to make sure that I can everyone can hear. Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, good. Can carry on then. All is good. All right. Well, let's get straight into it then and go from there. I'm going to go ahead and in my screenshot and then literally go over to my charts, which we have here. You should be seeing these perfectly fine on this. So yeah, I thought, I want to keep this to weekly, daily, 4 hour. And I always had some different things to kind of think about on here. I'm going to keep this real high level, overview. And I will say this to you right now. Some of you guys might have done a webinar with me or be familiar with my teachings. Some of you may not. If so, great to work with you again. If not, hey, I hope you enjoy it. And all good. I have a very simple approach to the market. I'm not really interested in technical indicators. I'm not interested in all these advanced patterns and all that. I'm just interested in, for me, good old support and resistance is what we do. And we try to keep our life very, very simple. Talking in terms of knowing why we want to get in, knowing why we want to get out. And I think one of the biggest mistakes I'm seeing from a lot of people at the moment is spending their life on too small a time frame of chart. And I think what you got to really understand here is, whenever we're looking at anything here, it's very easy to kind of get lost. Very easy to get kind of lost in the, in the weeds of things. Let's take, for example, we're going to start with the euro dollar here. And, we look at our euro dollar chart right now. And without a doubt, since, we could say March of last year, it's been about, March coming through to now where we're coming into February. We've been in this definitive upward trend on the market and going pretty strong and going pretty well on here. But then, that's great. But as you can see, there's also been downward periods in this market. And before that, massive. So one of the things you always got to ask yourself is, what is the trend now and what's going to be the trend later on? So it's always thinking about now and later. And that's kind of the approach that I'm going to be using here while we're doing this webinar together on this particular session. Because that's what I'm interested in is where are we now? Where are we going to be later? Okay. So it's almost like having a concept of, first thing, a good way of looking at it is what is the short-term trade and what is the long-term trade? Because for me, I would argue right now in this particular market that without a shadow of doubt, like I said, we're still in an uptrend. But I want to find the optimum place to buy to give this chance an opportunity to re-get to the upside on this euro dollar. Now, euro dollar's coming under a little bit of pressure at the moment as well. So we need to look at some multiple time frames. We need to get some different perspectives on this as well. And one of the things that's got of a big concern to me is what we've had up here. And what we've got up here is what I call a major resistance zone, which kicked off the last downward trend. All right. And what we can see, pretty expectedly on these weekly charts is a push. So to make this to the downside again, and we have to make the assumption that from this area here, we're going to get downward pressure until something of significance gives us a chance to kick back in. And that's something of significance that I'm seeing is around this area here. So to cut a long story short, what we're going to be looking at now is seeing if we can get down a little bit lower to see if we can re-engage the uptrend. So our first option here is to wait and buy when the price comes lower. Our second option is to be more aggressive and try and find a sell opportunity now to take it down lower. And that's always the process of what we do on here. If this, then that. And I think that if you have a flow chart in your trading, in your system, say, well, I'm going to do this until this point, and then I'm going to change my thinking. What it does is it takes a lot of that emotion out that a ton of people have a lot of difficulty with when they're doing this. So right now, off of this time frame, what I'm seeing at the moment on here very, very clearly, you know, is we have a little bit of room to go on this chart. And we have, you know, a ton of room, in fact, to get down to around this area here, which for me is going to be the tell, if you like. This area here is going to be the tell. Now, this is a wide area, so I'm going to narrow this down a little bit more. But coming down to this area is really good. So I want to take this down to the next smaller time frame now, and then find kind of a longer term buying opportunity, and I'm going to look for a short term selling opportunity. That's how we're going to kind of play this, okay? So a longer term buy versus a shorter term sell. So let's go over here. Let's restore this sell. We've got this perspective over here, and this is kind of where it is. And what's kind of useful about these charts here is if I look at the daily chart, that really gives me, the daily chart, a little bit more to work with on here. Let's go and pan this over, this chart, so we can see it. And I don't want to be buying into a zone like this, but I've got to be aware of this zone coming in. So ideally, if we can get down a little bit lower on this market, I want to be a buyer, getting into the region of this. So I always like to have 2 buy setups and 2 sell setups. So on the euro dollar right now, I think I'm just kind of looking for a pullback of some kind. So let's go ahead and expand my sells and take a look. And I think, you know, looking at this right now, take this line off and let's move this up. For me, I'm interested in this area all across here. There's been a kind of a significant turning point for the market. If you actually look across here, you know, this was the major resistance where the price was hitting its head. A lot of price activity is smacking its head, and then we broke through. So this could become an important kind of support area for price as we come back to it. So with that said, let's go ahead and mark this off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate this drawing tool, and I'm going to kind of refine this down a little bit more. And I'm going to be looking at this as kind of a price area around here. Now in Forex, I certainly cannot resist those round numbers. So to me, this area where we are right now, that for me is the if you like, the zone. And I call this a support zone, okay? This is the support zone in here right now. Interestingly enough, let's look at the numbers that we have on here too. Look, big round number, 1.2. It'd shock me if we don't get any real buyers in this. And normally what I'd be looking to do right now is just kind of short a rally back down to this area where then I'm going to be a willing buyer for a continuation. We might be running out of time at the moment to do that. But this for me is the test on the euro dollar right now. If this buy zone here fails, then I'm going to seriously reassess this, because we're getting downward pressure coming in from those long-term charts, but we've also got the upward pressure of the longer-term trend that's in place. So to keep our life real simple right now, this area here is going to be my buy zone, just in this region here. And I'll be looking in this kind of region of around the 196.67 to the 188.47 area. Now, I don't mind going a little deeper, but I always kind of look when these round numbers and see that sometimes you're going to get a price turn maybe a little bit sooner on that. That can be normal. That can happen. But for me, that's the one. And I like to treat, I tell you, Forex to me has changed, guys. You know, I used to try to do a little bit of Forex stuff on the short term. I don't even waste my time on the short term charts. You know, I'm a futures trader. I was just doing a live trading session with my students, and we were trading the stock index futures. Russell, Dow Jones, got some nice trades on the Russell and the Dow Jones. Got in, made our money, got out and done. That's a great market for that. But when you're looking for a longer term swing or position trade, your Forex is your king for that, I feel. But you just got to be that more patient. And that's why I'd rather pick my spots and work off these charts, because, you know, it's very easy for me, if I want, to go right down to a small time frame. And people will do this. They'll get down to like the weeds of a 3-minute chart. And this is where it all goes on. Like, where are they getting in? And all they're seeing is downward trending shorting. But they're not aware of where the next move is, because what they're doing is they're so heavily focused on this at the moment, this downward trend that they're seeing, that they're not thinking about the buy. You understand? Going back to that larger time frame, and remember, Forex is a massive market. Going back to that larger time frame is key, and that's what I want. So I'm going to look for that, for the buy zone here. And then what I'll be looking for, basically, guys, is, you know, a retracement, looking to try and get back up to 122. And then, you know, a push trying to get a test up to around the 124 to see if this trend has got room to go. Like I said to you before, I do remain bullish on it for now. If I look to some longer term time frames like on the monthly chart, we are going to have a little bit of a challenge. We do have a little bit of a challenge here, back up at this level, but this is the real test on here. This big area here, we're absorbing some of that, and usually in a lot of these big levels, they don't just react off of these big zones, these big areas. Like this is a big sell area here, but price typically will not react off of that and just go all the way down. It will hit that area a few times and then come back again. So that's kind of my first, if you like, conservative buy area. Okay, a more aggressive buy area. My second area would be looking down on here for something in the region of this, and I'll be looking down a little bit lower. I can't write this off at the moment. The fact that this is making higher highs and higher lows on this chart, very clearly making higher highs and higher lows on these long-term charts, you can't ignore that. That trend is trying to push its way up to the up. That is why I'm considering those buys. And again, let's just put this in perspective. You're going to have the backup there of a weekly area, and you've got the backup of a monthly area. All my daily charts really doing is just giving me the now, giving me the opportunity to get it in right now on this. And again, if you wanted to draw in this this area here up a little bit, make this a little bit tighter, you can make this a bit tighter. You could go down and you could kind of tighten this up for that second buying opportunity down to around there. So you've got two areas, about 100 pips risk on here and a little shy of 100 pips risk on there. They're my two long-term buying opportunities. Make sense, guys? That's really all I'm looking for at the moment. Now, there'll be obviously, now I've got to pick one direction. Right? That's how I'm looking at it. What I am interested in doing is going down to a slightly smaller time frame real quick, and then I'll move on to something else. And just seeing how this downward trend is actually playing out. And right now, I tell you what I would do on this. I tell you what I would do. Let me go to a 4. There's a bit of room to go before this triggers. And what I really like, and this is where I like the small time frames. Just if I can get a zoom on this. There you go. That's what I like around there. This area right here for a retracement back in. Okay, if we could get a little retracement, this is where I get a little bit aggressive and I take a short-term trade on the short side from here. Make sense? Around 120, 43, 28. It's not a very big area, but it's a 4-hour area. And I'd be willing to give that a little bit of wiggle room on this. But that for me would be the trade. That's what I'd be looking for on a short-term play. And then that would, my goal with that, when I say like a short-term play, it's very simple. My goal is to get a retracement to try and run this down for the last part of this short, where then my thinking will change and then I'm looking for the longer-term move to the upside. Does that make sense? Okay. So, short-term play to the downside, long-term play to the upside. Yeah, you know, now this is a plan that I've always worked with. This is a rule, a system that I've always had. I've always done it like this. Again, it comes down to if this, then that. And this is how I've worked with all of my students, you know, just doing it in this particular way. It's just saying, like, if this happens, then we do this. If that happens, then we do this. And again, I'll just zoom in so you can see that clearly. Short-term play to the long-term play. Now, just the stop's going to be that little bit bigger, you know. And if you want to get, you know, be careful of making your stops too tight on these markets. If you wanted to make that a little bit tighter, you could do this. But that's about as tight as I go on that because I'm looking for a longer-term play. Because what you got to remember with this is, when you're doing these plays is, you know, when you're getting on these big levels, and when you go to a market like this, and let's just zoom in here, and you're going for these bigger areas, you're trying to just give yourself a chance to get in. You can always add to a position. And there's a slightly more advanced technique, but you can always add, okay? And I would rather be in with something small than be trying to get too tight on an entry and miss out on something big. Because once I'm in, and I can start to build from there. Okay, so I hope that helps you guys. I hope that helps a little bit because, you know, what the idea of all of this is to make our life, you know, simple, and it should always be simple. You know, that's how it should always be. It should always be easy. You know, there should never be any real problems with any of this. You know, we should always be making our life, you know, as clean as we possibly can. All right, so Euro USD's been our first one. Let's go over to another pair. And I'm not going to spend a whole ton of time on the cryptos, but I will spend the last like 5 minutes on it because I got about to learn about 11:45, 4:45 UK GMT. The pound. let's take a look at where we're at with the pound lately. I mean, look, this uptrend is still steady, but there is some serious pressure coming on this. I've been known, if I don't like the price action on a currency or any kind of market for that matter, I've been known to just walk away. What has got me incredibly concerned about the pound right now is we've had this very steady uptrend. In fact, we've had multiple legs of steady uptrend on this. But what I see now that's giving me a bit of a concern is this sideways action that we're getting. And it's this lack of follow through that we're having on here that's giving me a little bit of a concern, I would say. And, you know, with that in mind, you know, it's kind of making me a little bit kind of like say, all right, what is stopping this? Where's the challenge coming from here? Well, let's go out to a weekly chart and see. And for me, I'm going to just zoom into this section right here to get a good thing. And I think that gives us a really good outlook, a really, really good little outlook on there of what we're currently dealing with in this particular market. And so what I see is here again, massive resistance coming in at 1.4. See this whole cluster here? Big area. And it's almost like the market's preempting what's to come in this particular area. I will say this, I remain bullish, but only for about another 350, 400 pips or so. I remain bullish for about 300, let's be conservative, about 300 pips of upside I remain bullish. What this means I've got to do is just try and buy pullbacks as best as I can to this area. Pullbacks as best as I can to these particular areas. So zooming in a little bit further on this, the problem I have at the moment is I'm just not seeing any real clarity on this. You know, what I need is a pullback. This is getting a little too overstretched on here. That's one of my concerns. Let's go to the daily chart. And I think the daily chart really tells the story, doesn't it? I mean, just look at this if we zoom in, how choppy this is. And to the left-hand side, everything I'm seeing here, to here, and to here, and to here, it's all kind of been chewed up a little bit. And I want that pullback, but I'm not seeing a clear area. So this is one of those scenarios where I've got to go down to a smaller time frame again. I'm going to go down to about the 4 hour and see if we can get a little bit of a look in that. Again, the challenge is coming from here in that, again, we need a pullback, but there's nothing really standing out at me as a really good untested area. And it's always nice to get those, you know, untested areas when they happen. But we are not really seeing that right now on this market. There's nothing that's really clear. So I'm going to keep drilling down until I can find something and see if I can get a little bit more clarity on it. But again, every time frame I take it down to, I'm really, really struggling. And, you know, that should be a cause for concern whenever you're doing your trading, guys, because if you are having that, key. Where I see some kind of significant price action is around here. Let's put a price line on that for you. Going to go back out to the weekly charts. Just draw a line. This for me is a key previous resistance support zone. Mark a couple of lines off on here. Two areas around here. These are my kind of significant price zones that I'm seeing at the moment. Got to look at the round number around 135. And I'm going to be patient and wait for it in that respect. So let's go zoom back in and see what we've got lining up around here. Now I'm going to go back to my 4 hour and 2 hour chart and see. That makes me feel a little bit better, actually. Now I can see on those bigger zones, those bigger time frame areas. Does make me feel a little bit better. So around that particular area, I got to say, I'm always going to imply for a little bit of overshoot. Always going to imply for a little bit of overshoot. But I would take another stab. Around this area here again. That's right. I'd take another little shot at this area again here. And I would take, because the fact that we went on made new highs from that area, that for me is the area I'd take a stab at. And I could not resist this 135 area again as well. They're my two areas right now. So let's go back over to my drawing tool. Not the easiest in the world. There you go. I've got to be patient and wait for a pullback on that. It's just as simple as that. It's not the prettiest market in the world, but they're my significant price points for now on this. And the cleanest I'm going to get. In fact, I would be probably more likely to be a bit more aggressive on this area because I'm expecting and hoping this uptrend is going to resume. But remember, 1.4 to 1.42 is as high a push as I'm really looking for on the pound. But you got to be patient. Let this thing explore its range a little bit and get a decent pullback to the upside off of those areas there. A break of 135, that's a big significant price area, 135. If that thing doesn't hold, I am not interested in being a buyer on this till much lower. Okay? That's my push on the GBP USD right now. Dollar yen. Let's take a look. Trying to get through as much as I can with this. Don't want to hang around. Don't want to be here all day. You know, analysis shouldn't take too long. It really, really shouldn't. It should be clean. It should be easy. And if you can't find it, it probably means it's not there. I gotta say, downtrend is still intact on the dollar yen. There's a beautiful channel on here. Let's kind of mark that off and see where we're at. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and... I'm not a big trend line guy. But you have a couple of touches of a trend line there, and you have a couple of touches of a trend line there. You know, you got a trend line across here. Yeah, that one's not valid on there. So this is the kind of trend line that we've got. Yeah. I like it a bit higher. I mean, I can't argue with this. This thing is too far too fast. We need some kind of selling pressure on here. But again, I would be looking at this. Touch higher. I'll be looking for this as a touch higher. That's how I'm looking at that. A little bit higher on this market. Not quite ready to hit the short button until we get up into this 105 area. That's your big number. We'll get nicely over percent. Never consider news. Don't care about it. By the time the news comes out, it's too late. You know? Just like all the people who got crushed on that. You know, GameStop. The amount of idiots who jumped into that market when it was up there thinking they got gold dust. Now how are they feeling at 93? I let the market come to where it is. If you're looking off the bigger charts, Mikhail, you never worry about it. In StockAbility, we respect the news and when it's coming out, but we don't make our decisions based on it. You know, too many people chase. And, you know, another great example is, you know, if you look at silver, right? And if we actually look at, you know, the futures on here and you look at silver, it's a great example of it. Everyone was like raving about silver yesterday or 2 days ago. Look where it is now. Lower than where it opened. Yeah, you know, it's just like hit $30. Now it's at 26. People just get crushed by over leveraging themselves. And that's what I found is why I never have to worry about, you know, the news in the style in which I trade. And, you know, I teach my students to trade because, you know, you're never going to get the news ahead of anybody else. And the charts give you everything you need if you're willing to listen. Now, long term, really long term, sure, right? Really long term, there can be some impact in that, of course, right? There can be some serious impact in that in the longer term side of things, you know, in the longer term plays, without a doubt, you know, that can be the case. But, you know, what we have to also remember and understand a lot of the time with any of this is most of the news is going to happen or be confirmed to you after the effect or after the fact. You understand? So you kind of have to preempt what's going to happen. And then people always justify why a market moves after they've read the news, you know? And then you're left scratching your head. Like, why did it go down? The news was good. So yeah, I try to keep it as clean as I possibly can in that respect. Just give me a second here, guys. Just got a little kind of quick thing to do on my charts, and there you go, doing that. There we are. So yeah, I hope that helps. I hope that, you know, helps you make sense of it all. All right, just making sure my do not disturb is on. It is good, perfect. All right, so I like it up at this area here, this daily chart. What I would do is probably go a little bit deeper. So let me go down to the 4 hour, and a 4 hour is a nice execution kind of time on this. And you can see this is a significant price point. And sometimes trading is so as simple as you just go off the big levels. And this is a big level, whatever you want to say. You know, this is a significant price area without a shadow of doubt, and one for our consideration. It's not even that wide. You know, why trade it off of anything less than a 4 hour chart? Look at the size of the zone, guys. 105.40 to 105.74. It's 34 pips with a bit of wiggle room. You might as well work off that. If you want a tighter entry, you put an entry in the middle of it. And then literally on the downside of that, I will be targeting down to about 104.50. And then I'll be targeting down to about 103.50 and all the way down to the lows. This to me is nothing more. This to me is nothing more than an opportunity to join this downward trend. That downward trend is still in play. Ignore it at your peril. All right, nice and easy. Just a nice, easy trade on that. Work off of it, and you can see where those targets are now. And, you know, for me, I don't really see any major buying opportunity until we get to at least here. Around this area here. That's it. There you go. Don't see any major buying opportunity around 104.26. And that, even then, you know, I'd be expecting a bounce and then maybe a possible continuation. Pure trend trade. That's all dollar yen is. Pure trend trade, guys. Dollar Canadian. Look at the daily chart of this. I don't like this so much. This has been a choppy market. I wanted to look at it on the monthly chart so you can see. Look, you're at the low end. You're at the low part of a range here. I don't care what you say. You know, you're on a low end of the range right now. You know, you've got to be real careful with this. This is all just one range, based by one range. And now we're getting some buying pressure coming into it. You know, you can see the buying pressure coming in off these dojis right now. The buyers are starting to step in. It's, you know, which means, you know, there's room on this to be retesting somewhere around here, which is what, 133, 134. So I'm bullish on it at the moment. I remain bullish on it for now. Playing the range. You can start to see the buying pressure coming off of these weekly areas here, see? So it's really about just getting a pullback. That's all it really is, and taking a stab. You could be with this one for a while, though. Take a look on here. I mean, look how these markets have been reacting off of these previous major zones, major support areas. I suppose the question is, now we're starting to make some higher highs and higher lows. What if? What now? Then that's easy. There. And, you know, while that area holds in this particular region, while that area is still there, 127.37 to 126.84, that's it. That's it. I'll be leaning on that. If you're already in this right now, I would just be like, you're looking to just keep looking at systematic targets, buying pullbacks to here, looking for targets, looking for targets, looking for targets. That's it. You know, and just trying to take a longer term play on that. I think the dollar is oversold. I gotta say, dollar's oversold. We've seen a bit of a comeback in it right now. It's starting to balance itself out. To me, that's the dollar Canadian. That's the dollar Canadian. Yeah, I'll be looking at some cryptos in just a second. So dollar CAD, long-term play on that, remaining kind of bullish on that, just leaning on these higher time frame areas. Let me also just take a look at yeah, not so pretty on New Zealand dollar. It's kind of hit its upper point. I do remain. This needs a pullback. I mean, at the moment, this does need a pullback. We've got this resistance area here. This is where I really want to be a buyer, down here, but I'm a long way off. So that means I can be a little bit more bearish on New Zealand dollar at the moment. Daily charts are starting to see some pressure. Do you see the slight pressure coming in? Okay. I just think it needs a slightly bigger pullback at the moment to really shock it. So I'll give you a couple areas I'll be looking at. Here is the main one I'll be looking at, around the 728s. I'd also be looking at this area too. So there's whole 720, 72 to 73. That's where the pressure needs to come for a continuation to the downside on that, on the New Zealand dollar. And I remain with a very similar stance on the Aussie dollar as well. I like the Aussie even more, guys. You know why I like the Aussie more? Is take a look at it. You're starting to see a lot more selling pressure coming in on that. There's that weakness. So we started to get that uptrend shift, and now daily areas are being broken and these areas are beginning to hold. I like that even more because of its location. I do. So I'll be a bit more aggressive on the short side of things, I think, on Australian dollar. And near term, let's take a look, and then we'll look at those cryptos. I might take this down a slightly smaller time frame to find something for us. Yeah, you'd have to be a bit more aggressive, I feel. Nothing really jumping out on me at the moment. But I would say probably be leaning. Yeah, it's a good place to be short. I mean, it's a good place to be short. I'd like to see a retest of this area here. Ah, 1 minute, guys. Can't seem to get my fib tool working. 1 minute. Bear with me. Just bear with me. My fib tool. Sometimes you know how these charting packages do this to you. Let me try this. Right, let's do this. And I'll show you what I was trying to do. What I'm looking at is this area here. Let's try this one more time. There you go. That's what I was trying to do. That area there. There's a nice little ceiling of pressure on here at the moment. You see this? And because we're so near to it, the fact that we managed to push lower from that area twice, and this was a key area of support as well, that would be my lower there. So at 170.60 to 170.80. Okay? Yeah, I mean, I don't listen. This is not a terrible place to be in. It's not a terrible place to be in. I don't typically myself, Michael, go for the small time frames. I don't trade off small time frames that often. But you know, where you're at right now is where you've got. It's off this 15-minute chart. You got a little bit. But I always look at the big picture. I always say, if you want to make little bits of money, go off the little charts. If you want to make bigger moves, go off the bigger charts. Right? I have a very specific process I follow, Art. It's called the overt system. It's, so yeah, everything, I'm giving you kind of a snapshot of this in like a fast forward move as well. But everything I have is a very specific process, yeah. This is why I'm looking at those bigger areas in this particular respect. But being short's not a bad thing. The biggest challenge you've got is just this market might need a bit of a retracement. But I'd rather be short than long, let me put it that way. You know, and again, it's all about targets. You can have it where you get a nice little move on a market, right? And, you know, you can get a nice little move on a market where, you know, you get a push, you make a decent bit of money on the downside, then it comes up, and then the next leg down, right? So time permitting, I just don't have the time. I've only got 5 minutes on here. The process, it takes a lot longer than 5, unfortunately. That's why I'm going through it at quite a pace to give you a bit of an idea. But we'll be doing further webinars, or feel free to check out. I'll show you can join one of our complimentary webinars as well and see what you think, where we go into a little bit more detail on it on there as well if you like the process. I'll show you how you can get in touch, okay? So let's go over to some cryptos, because I haven't really been getting into crypto much until this year. Missed the initial pushes. But I tell you what, it doesn't mean I'm writing it off. And to me, a long-term punt on it, I don't have a problem with. You know, I don't have a problem with a long-term punt on it. The markets I've actually been looking at are, here's the Bitcoin index that we have here. This is the Bitcoin index that I have on this. I just go click over to it on here on my charts, on my market watch. Here you go. Should be able to see it. There it is. So this is a daily chart of it right now. I'm beginning to find it's respecting its levels. Absolutely. I don't like the volatility that comes with, you know, Bitcoin and all these other cryptos. That's why for short-term trading on it, I don't. But I have to say, you know, for a longer-term play, if I'm willing to put a little bit in and have a little go, then for me, these price levels here, right? This price levels around this area here. And also here. These would be my 2 key points right now where I'd be looking at it. Absolutely. Anything's possible in the market. If you think this thing is just going to keep going up, then go buy it now. I don't buy high. Anything is possible in the market. You have to understand that. And I'm not chasing a market at $36,000 when it could come down. And here's the thing that will happen. For me to want to buy this higher than that, Nathan, to really want to buy it higher than that, this thing has to take out this area here and make new highs. And then upon making new highs, when it's showing me real strength, then I will buy more shallow pullbacks. At the moment, this thing is making lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. And now it's putting in the highs again, but this needs a pullback to continue. And that will happen one or two ways, by either getting a deeper pullback to go higher or breaking the highs and getting a pullback that way. You understand? So all you have to see is let the price show you. At the moment, it's doing this. So I either have to take a better lower pullback to get the highs, or if I don't get that, I let it break the highs, then I buy a higher pullback once it's shown me the strength. Do I feel like it's got the room to keep going? I do. It keeps bouncing back for sure. It keeps bouncing back for sure. So I'm still remain bullish on it, and I remain bullish on it, but when it gets to these lower areas around the 27,500 and the 25,000, right? That being said, what I also like as a market, and I've been looking a lot at this, and I'm really beginning to get into it, is the Bitwise 10 crypto index. And this is a new ETF that's come out, and I love it because it is literally an index ETF. And for me, at a price of 65.85, if anyone's looking for a long-term play on this, with a bit more diversification in crypto, with a lot less volatility, this is the one I've been looking at. And I've been talking a lot about this on my radio show. And I'll give you the details of the radio show just before I go in a minute. But for me, this is establishing some nice support areas. And we've been establishing some nice support areas here, which for me, I really like. And we've also got some nice support down here as well. And so for me, you know, while this goes great, you know, we had that initial push when everyone got excited. But you see this a lot with stocks. When ETFs and stocks go public for the first time, you get those pumps and then you get the dumps. It's so common to get the pump and then the dump. Now the market's settling down a little bit. You know, we've got some good opportunity. And at these kind of prices, this is a nice long-term play on it. So I've been introducing this a lot with my students in the company, and you know, looking at this, and hopefully there's going to be some options plays on this at time. But right now, that kind of price, you can put a few bucks into a stock like this, and then give yourself kind of a longer term, less exposure, but again, it's a nice little bit of upside as like of an investment on there. So that's the BITW, which is the Bitwise 10 crypto index. Really like it. Go do a little bit of research about it. It's a kind of nice little market, and I think something of interest that you guys might like as well. So that's where a lot of my interest lies at the moment, and where I've been doing some investing, because, you know, it gives me crypto exposure with a little bit of diversification and a whole lot less volatility. So, you know, if you're also looking for the Bitcoin itself, those bigger levels to throw a little bit of your own coin at it, great. But that's just kind of how we would go with the being a little bit more gentle about this. Make sense, guys? So yeah, if you're interested in a little bit more of what we do and what I do as well, a couple of ways you can stay in touch. Every Thursday on Facebook Live, we have our radio show. So I host a radio show on Facebook Live on the StockAbility page on there. This is a show that's every Thursday on Facebook. Okay, live at 12 noon Eastern, 5 p.m. London time. You can also get it on our YouTube channel. So you get a little bit more. We talk guests. We have great guests on there doing that. Usually about 45 minutes to an hour. Also, feel free to visit us at StockAbility. If you're interested a little bit more about what we do, best thing you can do, check out the homepage. There's the homepage there, StockAbility.com. That's my company. Scroll down to the bottom, and we have this one just did last night. This one here was actually last night. So this one here is done now. Well, we got another one. The next two we've got is Wednesday, 10th of February, Trading versus Investing, which is right for you. And this one here, the Trading Business Blueprint, how to start structuring and building some rules, strategy and plan. And we have these coming up like every couple of weeks, ongoing webinars as well. Loads of information about what we do on the website, our programs, everything. We don't have gimmicks. We don't have any of that stuff. We don't do crazy price drops and offer. Our prices are good. What we do is our tuitions are great. The way we do it is very simple. And if you want to check out a little bit more about what we do, that's what we do. So that's it. Appreciate you very much, guys. Thanks for giving me the time to give you a little bit of a brief, quick insight into what we do at StockAbility. All right. Thank you very much, guys. I hope you found that useful. FX Street, thanks a lot for having me as well. Probably see you guys maybe next month. All right. And go from there. All right. And also feel free to if you want to email me. I don't know if I put that up, but I'll type it in the comments. I think my details are on there. But if you go to the website, my email's on the website, stockability.com. Otherwise, it's SAME or same at stockability.com. Here you go. I'll type it in here for you. Same at stockability.com. There you go. Drop me a line. And actually, if you want to explore things a little bit further, we've got some pretty cool stuff. All right, guys. Thanks for your time. Nice to see a few familiar faces. FX Street, appreciate you too. Enjoy the rest of your week. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.